Thanks so much for joining us for this week's Dragonblade Unplugged chat. I'm so excited. We have three Dragonblade authors with us this week. We have Nadine Millard, Phil Reid, and Anna St. Clair.
Hi.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We had a busy week this week. Our first release is Nadine's book, and that's A Springtime Scandal. The setup for this one is so cute. I was making the video trailer for it. I was thinking, this is just adorable. And it's from A Lord of All Seasons, the first book from The Lord of All Seasons. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's so it's a 4-book, obviously, because there's 4 seasons, and it's actually centered around, yes, the lords, but also a family of 4 sisters. So they each get their own book. They each get their own lord, because why not?
Everybody needs one of those.
Exactly. So the first one is Springtime Scandal. That's the eldest sister, and I actually come from a family of 6 daughters. So I'm one of 6.
Wow.
So I always kind of wanted to write stories around, a few sisters, because there are tales to be told, I think, when you come from a family of a lot of girls. So Elodie is our heroine in this, and she's by definition the eldest, the one who kind of looks after everybody, the one who behaves herself, and the younger 3 are decidedly not. So as the series goes on, you kind of meet the more wayward ones. So it was a lot of fun to write siblings and the squabbles and the stuff that you get into,
Yeah, I love the way the tagline set up that she was the good girl until she wasn't the one who and the idea that he thought that this was silly until the moment that he didn't. It's like I
exactly. So he meets her in the town that she's from, a small village that she helps out with all the charitable stuff, and he kind of just thinks that's a bit boring, because he's just come back from doing what I suppose gentlemen did in the days we won't talk about. We'll keep the chat PG. And he just thought this girl is so boring, pretty, but not much to her, and they get into a bit of an unfortunate situation that it looks like he's compromised her, but he hasn't. And a lot of chaos ensues, but essentially she decides that she doesn't really want to be that good anymore. She doesn't want her life decided for her. So she stows away in his carriage. He doesn't know. So he sort of accidentally kidnaps her, which was a lot of fun. And then as time goes on, he starts to realize he might not be as straight-laced as he thought. Mm-hmm. And she herself might not be as good and always doing the right thing as she thought. So they have a lot of fun.
Oh, it sounds delightful. And there's nothing better than an accidental kidnapping to move your plot forward.
Like if I ever get accidentally kidnapped, I kind of hope it's by a really handsome, rich, tribal gentleman. So I won't tell my husband that, but
It has to be titled,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that sounds like so much fun. I'm really excited for that one and for the rest of the books in the series.
Yeah.
So our second book, that was the first book in that series. Our second book released this week was Phil's book, and Phil's book, yours is the second book in the Guinevere series.
Yeah.
It's The Bear's Heart.
Yes. And there's a kidnapping in that.
That's right. There was kidnapping from the first book.
No, there's a kidnapping in the second book too.
Oh, in the second one too.
Yes, but not
remember, he snatched her back through time. So.
No. This is not by a handsome hero. It's by a villain.
So
Gwen finds herself in a very dangerous situation, but she's pretty clever, and she manages to convince the really hot. I mean, she's in danger of her virtue being compromised, and she does manage to talk her way out of it. But I won't tell you what happens. He has an awful lot of adventures. You see, book 2, she's already married to her hero, who is King Arthur. But book 2 continues their love story because there's lots of misunderstandings they have, because she's very modern, I mean, like we are. And so she has a modern outlook, and he's not modern at all. He's very much into, well, not into girl power, and he doesn't know how to cope with her, because she's very much into, yes, I'll come. And she gets herself inveigled in all sorts of different problems because of this. And she interferes. She meets up with, well, she already knows Drustans. Now, Drustans is Tristan of the Tristan and Isolde stories.
Oh, okay.
So it's that romance comes into it, but it's a side romance. So that comes into it. And in fact, I've just written the end of their story in book 6, because all the characters continue all the way through all the books. So it's the same characters all the way through. So book 6 is going to tie them all off. And I've tied off the Tristan and Isolde story. Although, of course, because they've got more suitable names, they're called Drustan and Esilt, and she interferes in that. Gwen does. She can't resist interfering.
Well, when you talked, or the tagline for that one where it talks about knowing the future, like you shouldn't know your future, but she thinks she does. I was thinking what it would be like to go back in time and have to remember the things you learned when you were in school, and how much I would wish I paid more attention. Because I know just enough to know, hey, I think something happened in 1812, but not enough to know what it was, or what were the, what the inciting incidents up, and it's like I think about that every time there's time travel. It's like,
yeah, she's a librarian, so she did her degree in English literature, and she comes to the conclusion that it was the least useful degree she could possibly ever have done. She could do with a history degree. She could do with a degree. She could do with being a doctor or nurse. She could do with how to build a chimney, because in those days they didn't have chimneys, and it's very smoky. I mean, all the smoke rises, so it's relatively safe. But she looks at one point, she thinks, oh, how would it be if we had a chimney, but maybe not in a thatched building. not one built by her anyway. So she could do with all this information. She'd like to know much more about treating wounds.
Yeah,
I'm actually learning quite a lot about those things. There's all sorts of strange things you Google when you're writing a story about that long ago, and you find out the funniest things, like what they used for nappies and that kind of toilet facilities. She's very disgusting.
I think we've all gone down that weird Google path at one point.
Yes. Rabbit hole,
Yes.
I would hate for someone to get my computer and look at my Google map.
Everyone would have to explain that.
No, I don't want to explain why I looked up arsenic and strychnine.
Why do I swear? Not a murder.
No, I do not have a rodent problem.
Or pistols that will fit in a reticule,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that sounds like so much fun, and I'm hoping that things end well for Gwen, better than she probably feels at the moment. Anna, your book was the last book we had released this week, and it is The Duke of Disorder, and it's book 3 in the Ranks of Mayhem.
It is.
Right?
It is actually. Here they are. Nope, that's not where they are.
Don't knock the stuff off your desk.
Oh, you see my desk? These are the
I can't see your desk. I'm just here. Oh, hey, there it is. And then those are the first two.
This is the first book, the Earl of Excess, and then this is the second book, which is the Marquis of Mischief, and our Marquess of Mischief.
I was going to say, I thought we decided it was Marquette. I feel like there was a lot of discussion about that.
That's right. And then we have the Duke of Disorder, and the Duke of Disorder is Lucas Pemberton, and Lucas is a kind of a staid individual. He's happy with his life, his comfort zone, doing his work, running his lands, and he just enjoys his freedom. And well, that's because he has no other choice. He had 6 years ago, he had tried to become engaged, and the woman that he was in love with was all of a sudden married off to someone else, and she was married off to pay her father's debts. So I don't know why men thought they could do that, but women were considered chattel, so they were able to do those kinds of things. And he comes home and he goes up to meet her, and he's ready for the picnic that they had planned, and she's gone. and her father won't tell him where she is. So his father, who at the time was the Duke, did everything he could to find the woman, but he couldn't secure her either. So it was too late. She was married, and the person that she was married to was a very abusive, just a mean person. So she endured 5 years of that marriage, and he had an accident and died. No, it wasn't strychnine or any of those things.
What the accident was for.
He really had an accident, and she hightailed out of there. So she is now gone back to where her parents live, and accidentally runs into Lucas, who was with his friends. They're spending a little time together after the last one got married. So they're still spending some time together and enjoying, just kind of hanging out. And this horse just kind of comes out of nowhere with this woman hanging on the side of it. She slipped out of something, spooked the horse. She falls out of the saddle. I don't ride side saddle, so I can imagine how that could have happened. But so she's kind of screaming her, and then the person that rescues her is him, and he doesn't realize it because he's just looking at a woman that needs to be rescued, and he's just trying to get to that. And then they end up together, and he looks, and he's have you ever just had someone hurt you so bad that you never wanted to see them again? That's where he was with her, and all of a sudden he's holding her, and there's so many questions. There's so much emotion there that he all he can summon up is be terse. And he says, well, maybe one day we'll be friends. Friends is not really what she would have thought they would have been, but the whole situation kind of leads into a series of meetings and runnings into each other and that kind of thing. And they finally decide they need to just soften it up. But in the middle of all this, they have a problem. She's afraid that she's going to lose everything she's gotten from her previous husband, who the only kind thing he ever did was to leave her some property that would be hers. And she has relatives that she fears are coming after her for that. So she's not willing to stay in one place, and he's still trying to get over and trying to adjust himself to that fact that she's back, and just like that, she's back. So that's kind of how their relationship kind of teeters back and forth. And I just won't tell you more of the story. Their happiness depends on whether or not they can, if he can forgive her, possibly they can be happy, but he just can't seem to summon it yet.
Yeah, that's such a good setup. I didn't want to see you, and then here you are.
Yeah. I love that, though. I love it. I love those parts of me.
Thank you.
No, that and Heroes That Underestimate Heroines, which I think is true of both Bill's book and Nadine's book. That that idea that we're much more than they expect us to be.
Yes,
because we
very
are
strong.
the heroines of our own stories. So.
Exactly.
Very strong
I
women.
love that in historical as well, though, because obviously with the way the world was then, women didn't have rights, and they didn't. And so I always like to write my heroines with just a little bit of sass and feistiness. I don't believe for a second that the world was full of women who were happy to be so far down the pecking order then. So I like to let them rebel in the ways that they can every once in a while,
Yeah,
I agree. I can't believe that women were just docile and didn't speak up for themselves. They might not have been able to carry any weight or influence, but they are certain that they didn't just take things as they rolled off their husband's chin.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I know I wouldn't. So if I'm ever time traveling, there's going to be trouble.
What would you take if you were time traveling? What would you take back from this century to, if you were time
I'd
traveling?
like to take electricity and hot water, but I don't think I could manage it.
my Kindle, but then you couldn't charge it, could you?
No.
My Kindle and a well-laden Kindle with one of those solar panel things, the little ones that you can carry about.
Oh, how cool is that?
Self-charging Kindle. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Be careful where you go back, because you might be charged with witchcraft.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's right.
And some tea bags and some marmalade.
some chocolate that we have now, because I'm not about the bitter chocolate that they drank back
Oh.
then.
Yeah.
Oh, chocolate, definitely. And popcorn.
Mhm.
Popcorn, definitely some popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're just bringing a picnic. Like Phil's thinking, I'm going to bring equipment. We're like, food, we'll bring food.
They'll get to read and there'll be snacks. So
Well, yeah, people always ask these questions, and I'm always wondering, well, would I bring my toothbrush? Well, they have those, but they're really icky. So I don't know if I'd bring a bar of soap with me or something. I don't know.
Probably bring shampoo, because I didn't like the way they had to wash their hair. So shampoo, conditioner.
Have you seen the program they did? It was called Lost in Austin, where a girl goes back in time and finds herself in Pride and Prejudice.
I've seen of it, but I never watched it. Was it good?
Oh,
Yeah, it's very
so
good. It's on BritBox, and I think you can get BritBox in the States.
Yeah,
I watched it when it came out, and I rewatched it when we got BritBox, and it was very funny because I think she ended up brushing her teeth with salt, or was it bicarbonate of soda? I don't know. Whatever she did, she didn't like it, and the first thing she did when she got home was have a really good toothbrush and floss.
My girlfriend and I read somewhere that they used to use licorice sticks, the tree,
the actual tree, like
and you chew on the end and it gets kind of like a little brush thing. And they have those at the herb shop. So we would ride our bikes downtown and take our babysitting money, and because like you do, buy licorice sticks to try and make toothbrushes, and it was very unsatisfying.
Yeah.
No.
But now I'm gonna have to Google and see when popcorn was available, because I don't know what popcorn was available, and now that you said it, I really want to know. Like,
well, it's maize, isn't it?
I really
It's
don't know either.
Kernels of maize, and that's American, so it was obviously not around before America was discovered.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a giveaway as soon as they saw me. Then she's from America. She's got popcorn.
I'd like to think I'm a nice person, but I'm not sure I wouldn't go back and take credit for someone else's invention and bring it to the world.
Yes.
I'd like to think I wouldn't, but I don't know if that'd be too tempting.
Oh gosh, can you think of all of them that we could think about? I mean, just
pockets in their dresses. It would be a game changer. I would give all the women pockets. They'd love me forever.
Oh yeah.
In the Dark Ages, there were no buttons. So it was all lace up everything. The Romans had buttons, but they were only for decoration. They didn't actually do anything up with a button.
There you go.
I'd have to have safety pins. What is the straight pin stuff? I could not.
Yeah. Hairspray. Can you imagine how much they would love you if you brought hairspray back?
What can we make that out of? What will? I just know it fills the air. I don't know how to make it.
I have no idea. You might not have paid much attention in history class, Evelyn, but I paid no attention in science. So these inventions.
See, when you guys were talking about shampoo and bar soap and stuff like that, I'm thinking, well, I kind of think I could figure out a decent enough, like, with some help, figure out a decent enough substitute. But there's stuff like toilet paper. Like, I would miss that. I would miss that a lot.
Oh my God, the toilet paper shortage.
Seriously. When the pandemic comes, what do we grab? Do we grab the popcorn or do we grab the toilet paper? It was the toilet paper we were out of.
I found the most amazing thing.
We could take two things.
And I posted it. And apparently they used to, thinking of the popcorn, they used to use corn cobs.
Yes.
Right, withered corn cobs.
Not at all.
Okay. I mean, they were inventive. We have to give them that.
Maybe I like butter and salt on my. I like butter and salt on my corn cob. I'm not sure I want to reuse it.
And that gives entirely new meaning to hot buttered bun.
I have to say the corn cobs didn't have the corn on them anymore.
Yeah, that might have been a bit uncomfortable.
A little sting with your.
Oops, dog barking.
Okay, so I'm thinking that maybe recording these early in the morning is a little bit dodgy because the filters are off a bit. But one of the things I wanted to make sure we had time to talk about was because I know, Nadine, you're in Ireland, and Phil, you're in England, and Anna, you're in North Carolina. Is that right? So we are scattered, and I'm in Virginia, so we're scattered all over the place. And yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, which in the States is an excuse for preschool teachers to put green food coloring in milk. And we all make our hands like this and put green paint around the outside and make little feet and then make little toes. So
how cool!
Put them all over our house, so our children go nuts trying to find the leprechaun. My kids would build traps like those mousetrap traps over the rafters with laundry baskets and pulleys and stuff. You actually have the honest to goodness real holiday with a real historical.
Yeah. And I don't know, sometimes I see some footage from around the world and I think, I don't know if they do it better than us in different places. But yeah, I mean, it's great. We do still use it as an excuse to have a drink. There's no point in lying. Some stereotypes are true. And yeah, so yesterday my kids were in the local parade. We have parades all over the country. So there's huge ones, say in Dublin. That's, you know, when people come from all over the world to perform in them, they tend to be in Dublin or Cork or Galway. But then all around, even in tiny little villages, you've got loads of parades. And it's usually, you know, a few kids and then about 60 tractors, but it's still a parade. They hang balloons off them, it counts. And, and we don't dye our rivers green or anything like that, but
which is very sensible.
Yeah, well, I figure, you know, there's probably enough pollution in most of the rivers to have them a bit discolored, so I don't think putting green in them would make a difference. But yeah, no, and this year we got a bank holiday today for it as well, because of COVID and everything. Government gave us an extra day off, so I don't know if that was a good idea, but I'm very sure that the pub landlords are really happy about it because nobody went home last night.
It's a 3-day weekend. Right when you need it. Yeah. So loads of crack, and you know, it's so great. Every year it just blows me away how much the whole world celebrates St. Paddy's Day and just gets involved in it. And it's really heartwarming. It's touching, you know. So I like to think the whole world is Irish on March 17th, just for a few hours, you know. Well, and we Phil, you said you have Irish ancestry in your family tree, and I think Anna, you do too.
I had my DNA done a few years ago someone gave me a kit for my DNA, and that reinforced it. It said it told me all the bits in Ireland I came from, but primarily it was Dublin and County Roscommon. And then I did the ancestry thing and went back and I found the ancestors, and I found the actual ancestor who came from Ireland to London. So that was quite good. Oh, it was called O'Manion, and then the name changed and he became called Manning. So that was very interesting. And in fact, I found him in a book because he was some kind of soldier who was guarding the south coast. And one of my other relatives, who'd also been doing research, sent me the link to the book. So I bought it. It was quite good. Only on one page, just to mention. But it sounds like he was a bit of a nerdy well. He was a drinker, I believe. I
apologize on behalf of Ireland.
No, that might be some good stuff, you know.
I also found out I had Scandinavian blood, which was quite interesting because I'm predominantly English. But the other thing I found, I thought my grandmother her family, I thought they came from London. I was actually born in Manchester, and so was she. But I then discovered that her grandfather had come from a house, a tiny little village right next door to Stonehenge. And of course, Stonehenge is really famous. And when I took it all the way back, his family had lived there for hundreds and hundreds of years. I kind of like to think maybe his ancestors helped build Stonehenge, you know, like 4,000 years ago, whatever it is. I'd love it if he had. Because usually when you get back far enough, people didn't, you know, that's where they came from because they didn't move around in those days. Yeah. And because there was hundreds of years of him in this tiny village, I was thinking, yeah, maybe you were there when Stonehenge was being built.
Yeah. It seems likely. I mean, 5 miles would have been a big deal.
Yeah.
Because they walked everywhere or rode a horse.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
If they were lucky.
Yeah.
We when we lived in Wales, it was the year 2000, and they did a Millennium Project. And the Millennium Project was to take another stone. Because you know how Stonehenge has those really big stones with well, Well, the smaller stones are called the blue stones. The big stones come from quite nearby on the Wiltshire, the Marlborough Downs, and they're called the sarsen stones. But the smaller stones, which are still about 3 or 4 tons, they're really big, come from Pembrokeshire, which is where I lived. So somebody got £100,000 grant to bring one of these, because there are still some up there that haven't been moved. You can see them if you climb up the hills, the mountains, you can find the quarry. Anyway, they brought one down and they put it on Stone Age plastic matting. And then they got volunteer students every weekend to come and pull this thing. And the idea was to pull it about 40 miles down to Pembroke Dock in Pembrokeshire and put it on a boat, because the theory was that they put it on a boat on the coast of Pembrokeshire, sailed it around the south coast of Wales, and then down the rivers, and then finally pulled the stones the last bit to Stonehenge and put them up. So this stone came right past our house. And it was quite amusing because they had all these people, and this £100,000 clearly went on beef burgers every weekend because they supplied all the people pulling it with burgers, and there was a burger van. But they also had, now Merlin's in my story, and they had Merlin there, or someone who thought he was Merlin, and he was wearing kind of bright blue satin.
I love Merlin.
Very undark agey. This bright blue satin. And I think he had stars and moons, you know. Onto it. Unfortunately, I couldn't help, because I'd love to be able to say I'd helped to pull the stone, but I was expecting my youngest child and I was pregnant. So I couldn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't.
Anyway, they got it all the way down. They got it all the way down to the river, and I think they managed to get it along the river down to Pembroke Dock, and then they put it on a boat and it fell in. And so for a long, I think it's still on the docks. It never got to Stonehenge. It's sitting on the docks at Pembroke Dock because it sank. But they did fish it out with a Stone Age crane, you know, as you do. So that was £100,000 off the Swanee.
That's like plans of mice and Merlins.
Absolutely.
The beef industry profited.
All day. We could do this all day. We could do this. If you want to make this a morning thing that we do every morning, I would be fine with that. It's been a delight to talk to you this week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to put the links to the books in the comments so that everybody who hasn't gotten them already can get them.
Okay.
Dragonblade books are their very best value, pre-order period and on release day. And so you want to grab them while you can. So I'll make it easy for you all to do that. And then we'll be back here at the same time next week. Not us.
We might pop it up again. You never know.
That would be fine with me. I would love that part, actually.
Bill, Nadine, it was a pleasure meeting you guys.
It was
Nadine
so
and I
fun
worked together on
talking
it. Yeah, so much fun. Nice to put
Thanks so much, ladies.
But it was thoroughly enjoyable.
Me too. I've loved it.
It's that salt and butter thing that I won't forget.
All right, ladies. Thanks so much.
Bye.
We'll see you next week. Bye.